Walter Carter here at Carter Vintage Guitars with the Fender Jazz Bass, very familiar to people today, but a bit of a mystery to me is why it was ever created. In 1959, the year before Fender introduced this bass, they already had the Precision. The Precision had caught on only with West Coast country acts. In Nashville, the country players were still playing uprights. In rock and roll, last time they saw Elvis before he went into the Army, Bill Black was playing an upright bass. I think Waylon Jennings played a Precision with Buddy Holly in his last dates, but from what anybody would have seen, it would have been Joe B. Malden of the Crickets playing an upright. So there was no electric bass yet in rock and roll. Motown was just getting going, and James Jamerson was still playing an upright. Practically all jazz players were still playing upright basses. So there wasn't really much competition. The real competition out there, I think, was probably Dan Electro. Their basses, particularly the Longhorn, had two pickups. The Precision only had one. And Dan Electro had just become the brand that Sears distributed under the Silvertone name. So that was a potential threat to anyone in the bass market. So for whatever reason, people at Fender got together. They decided, we've got this new Jazzmaster that has offset waists. Precision is more like the Strat with the even waist, so we'll upgrade this bass with offset waists. We'll make it easier to play. They made the neck quite a bit thinner at this part, not so much up here, but I suppose somebody thought jazz players would like it more and that would make for a faster neck. Let's give it two pickups. And initially, this model had stack knobs with a tone and volume control on each one, which is what the Dan Electros had. By the time this bass was made, 2 years later, in '62, they'd gone to a different system with just a single control for each pickup. And there was one other thing. Way after this time, in the '60s, I remember reading Downbeat magazine, and somebody referred to an electric bass derisively as sounding like a rubber band. And I guess that was the quality that kept a lot of players away from it, the increased sustain that a Fender electric bass would have over an acoustic bass. So Fender came up with string mutes to dampen the sustain on all the strings. Almost all of these that you see today have these removed. And if you're wondering, that's what the four holes in most early jazz basses are. They release this, they call it the Jazz Bass. Who picks it up? R&B players like Larry Graham with Sly and the Family Stone found out that this pickup being closer to the bridge gives it the ability to have a sharper attack and more percussive sound, and that's, he invented the slap, the thumb and pull style. Through the years, bass players in many genres of music picked up the jazz bass, except for jazz players, and maybe that's why Fender held on to this idea that it needed string mutes. They got rid of these pretty quickly, but even in the 70s, this is a bridge cover from the 70s. That's a piece of foam in there. They're still trying to mute the strings for a jazz audience that they just never quite got to. But all in all, I'd say this is an example of, if you have a good idea, build it and they will come.